long flowing blonde hair. So I just wanted to kind of segue a little bit and kind of talk about it. So it's nuts, but here's the problem that's happening globally is that the stock market, and I don't care about the stocks. You know me, I don't own any. Well, my 401k does, but I don't own any personal stocks. And so I don't care. I don't care if a bunch of companies go under or whatever. I only care because I lived through it in the last downturn, and I saw people just get crushed. I saw them empty their retirements. I saw a lot of bad stuff. So now I'm seeing it all again, and when the stock market goes down, what ends up happening is just so contrary to anything that we were taught about money, right? Like we were taught, hey, you know what? Be responsible. Don't be an idiot. You don't be a dipshit. Be responsible. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You know, no one's going to bail you out. You got to be tough. Like, that's the type of crap we were taught, right?
Right.
So what's happened, everyone's seeing it, everyone's getting more and more livid, is that they did something called putting liquidity into the market. Putting liquidity in the market is a fancy term for printing cash. They're literally printing cash to buy different financial instruments. So they're whatever those are. They're treasury bonds, houses, distressed assets, whatever. The Fed, which is not really, it's part of the government, but it really isn't. It's kind of a bunch of banks got together and said, "Hey, we're going to control the money supply for the U.S." And the U.S. said, "Well, okay." So basically, what these criminals, and I do consider them criminals, are doing is they're doing these rescue plans to artificially pump money into the economy. And so what's going to take place out of that is that the stocks are going to go, not the stocks, they're hoping that the stocks will go up, but they're hoping that people have more money, and you're like, oh, that's good. But you're going to be looking at a world in the U.S. where getting a cheeseburger, you know, that might cost today $5 or $6, when we were younger it would cost $2 or $3. It's going to cost about $15 to $20 real quickly.
Jesus.
Like you read those stories about wheelbarrows of money, and we're going into a deep, in my opinion, a deep depression. And this could be it's going to be a transformative period. So I'm really worried about a lot of that stuff. I'm worried about the impact on my wife, on my daughter, on all that stuff. And I'm certainly not the only one. But you're going to see things continue to degrade. So today, what happened was the stock market went down by 3,000 points. So they only had like 30,000 points, went down by 3,000. Like it's a 15% drop. The Trump and the federal government are like, we're going to do whatever. We're going to print up trillion. They've now at this point promised to Wall Street over $2.2 trillion. But Wall Street's going, we don't care about your little fluff money. In fact, take your fluff money and go. What we care about is that you get a handle on this coronavirus, because China's not producing stuff at the rate that they were. We don't have people who can buy stuff, and then we have a pandemic that we don't even know how wide or deep it's going to happen, but people are dying from it as we speak. You know, so Wall Street's like going, well, sell, get rid of this stuff. The stock is going to be meaningless. And so what you're seeing is you'll see like the stock market go down 2,000-3,000 points, and then it'll rally by 1,500 points, then go down 2,000 points. Like, even though there's all this excess money that's going to be printed, they're saying, look, until you get a handle on the coronavirus, we don't care. Meanwhile, you've got working people. Unemployment is going to shoot up dramatically. It'll go pretty quickly from, it's like down around 3-4%. It's going to go up dramatically to probably 15, 16 to 20% here real quickly.
Jesus.
Yeah. So,
well,
good times.
From what I've heard, I mean, I hear Dick Stain Donald talking, you know, on his daily little fucking Q&A sessions, and he mentioned something, or the other guy, the Treasury guy, head of the Treasury,
Steve Mnuchin. Yeah, Steve Mnuchin.
Right. He has like an MN in his last name.
Yeah, it's a weird last name. Weird gig.
And he said something about getting some money to people in the next couple weeks. So is this going to be like a check similar to like what George Bush did after 9/11? Like,
Yeah. Oh man. Hey, did I prep this show with you? Yeah. So about that. So they're basically looking at the problem that I just described, where basically you got a situation where China, which makes most of the goods, and I'm using China. There's other countries, obviously, we know Korea, Thailand makes some of this stuff. There is some, there's some development elsewhere, but basically, these other countries that make and then they sell to the U.S. and then Toby, as a consumer, goes in and buys those goods. And obviously that's happening in Europe and other places. Well, that whole thing is breaking. So the problem is that people are now scared. They don't want to go out and buy because people are getting laid off and all this stuff. So they're like, we'll just $1,000. We'll put up $1,000 and we'll give it to them and they'll buy something. Well, I get that $1,000. I don't know when my wife's returning to work or if she's returning to work. So we're going to hold on to every last dime that we get. The only thing that's going to boost the economy is solving the coronavirus. That's it. But the problem is that because we don't have a single payer system in terms of Medicare or Medicaid, like Bernie Sanders, who basically for all intents and purposes is out tonight. He lost 3 major states. And he doesn't. The DNC. There's a lot there to unpack. I'm not going to segue into that, but bottom line is this: is that he lost and he's out. But Medicare for all would have helped because we would have had a unified system to get like the production, like from getting the test out to people so they could get tested, to getting whatever antiviral drugs, whatever that is. We don't have that. It's like a mess of a healthcare system that's literally killing people now. Because
it's so fractioned.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm not saying like, oh God, if it was just the government doing it would be just perfect. Because let's be clear, our government finds ways to screw up a lot of stuff. But it would be a lot more streamlined. It would be a lot better than what we have now. And literally right now, like we've only, like the current capacity from what I understand is for instance, Lane County in Oregon has about 150,000 people. And from what I saw, out of that, there's only been something close to maybe 100 to 200 tests that have been done. And they got their first confirmed case tonight. I mean, we're in if we're going to call it a pandemic, and I am, because the reason I don't think it's like some, I go back and forth. I'm like, well, maybe it's just a government yank our chain, but then I'm going, well, shit, if it's happening in Thailand, if it's happening in Japan, the government can't cover that up. They're not that, they're not that smart. So, it's a big problem. And, yeah.
The Thai government just made a statement this morning here. This is it's about 1 p.m. here right now.
Oh sure. Oh well, look at you in the lap of luxury. It's 11:30 here.
Yeah, man. This is my waking up time.
All right.
I miss the mornings, and there is no morning for me in Thailand. It goes straight to the afternoon. But I was reading that the government made a statement here this morning, Thai time, and it said that they expect about 400,000 people to be infected by the end of 2020, which is going to freak people out. That might start some of the shit you're seeing, in the West, some of the panic buying and stuff. That might just jolt it over here.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, none of this is a downplay like the concerns. Like, I don't begrudge people for being, especially Americans or whatever. God, so goofy. But I do worry about the nationalism kicking in, and I do worry about, we're seeing, like you said, you talked about the xenophobia. Certainly Trump, he's calling it the Chinese virus, or trying to popularize that. People are like, shut up. It's a coronavirus. Yep. Shut up. Yeah.
Over here, a lot of people, especially the Ministry of Health and something over here. There's a bunch of ministers all under the Prime Minister over here. Mm-hmm. He is a character, man. Like he's on the news, like a live feed. This is about a month ago.
Yeah.
And he was passing out face masks for free to people that are walking by this train station, popular train station here in Bangkok. And like the like maybe the Chinese, from what I saw in this video clip, the Chinese and maybe the Korean and Japanese are taking these face masks. And then you see a white family walking by. I don't know where they're from, possibly, Europe or maybe America, Canada, walk by, and they decline taking the face masks. And like on camera, this guy's all fucking dirty falang. Falang is a word that they call all white foreigners over here.
Oh, sure.
It kind of has some racist connotations, but that's for another story. They're called falang, and on camera, on tape TV, this guy's saying fucking dirty falang.
Oh, wow.
And he recently clarified that up by saying, like, he's basically blaming it on white foreigners that buy the diseases has come here to Thailand. And it's funny because China is starting to say something like that too. What they're saying with the U.S. military, that during U.S. military drills, and I want to say late December, that's what introduced the coronavirus to China. So
nobody wants to. It's a game of hot potato. Nobody wants to say it was them. And I've been very defensive because I have coworkers who are Chinese who are definitely feeling the xenophobia. And what I was saying to them, and what I continue to say is this: is that look, China has almost 2 billion people in their country, and I can't think of what the title of the medical profession is, but the people who study viruses and their spread go to China to study. Like, that's where you get your flu vaccines from, not because of anything that the Chinese are doing inherently. Like, it's not because the Chinese are doing A, B, C, and D or something unclean. It's because they've got 2 billion people concentrated along that coastline and then inwards a little bit. That's the issue that the Chinese face. And so that's why you go there, is because you have a significant concentration of people. And usually we get all of our flu vaccines from there. And then that's where it gets done, because they go, well, whoever gets started in China will obviously make it out of there. But it has absolutely zero to do with any cultural thing, anything. If you had 2 billion people living in California, it would be the same place that you would go to. You go there because that's where the people are. You don't go to South Dakota because nobody gives a damn about South Dakota. No offense to my 2 listeners who heard South Dakota. I want to thank you. You're amazing. You're lovely people. Please continue. Anyways. That's kind of the gig that I see. So I'm going to kind of transition here, and we'll wrap this thing up, and then you and I will continue BSing. But basically, at this point, that's kind of where the world is at today. What is it? Is today St. Patrick's Day? Was that today, or is that yet?
St. Patrick's Day, or was it maybe yesterday?
No. It's the 17th, and so today is St. Patrick's Day. I am wearing green. How the heck did that happen? Plus my last name's green, so what else? So I'm gonna finish this up. So basically, what we're gonna see, the stock market rebounded a little bit today. We're gonna see more the stock market. So I'm learning a lot about stocks. It's just so fascinating because what they do 2 things. One is they do something called repurchase agreements, where basically, I'll just be very quick, and because this is dry white toast stuff. Basically, let's say I have an empty bottle of wine here in front of me, of course, and I was going to say, hey man, I need some money, I need some cash, and so like a loan, you give me cash, and I go, oh, take my bottle of wine. We'll just put it like that. And the agreement is that within 90 days or within a day, I would repay you back. That's what a repo agreement basically is. So the Fed, though, in order to do that, just prints money to buy. In this case, if you were the Fed, that's what you do, is you just print money to buy my wine, empty bottle of wine, on the condition that I would repay you back. Problem is, if I go under and I never pay you back, that money now is not backed up by anything. It's just out there in the world. So that's inflation. That because the more money you have, the more money it takes to actually. It's what they say to workers whenever a worker wants a raise. They'll say, "Oh man, we got to raise the wage to $15